The airport in France was busy that morning. People rushed with suitcases, babies cried, and announcements echoed through the wide glass halls. But one man sat quietly in a corner. He wore a plain brown jacket and dark trousers. His shoes were clean but simple. He had no bodyguards, no flashy watch, no gold chain. Just a book in his hand and a calm look on his face. That man was Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso. But no one knew. He was traveling without guards, without any noise, without telling anyone who he was. He wanted peace. He wanted to feel like a normal man. He wanted to sit in business class like any other passenger and think. But the peace did not last long. Suddenly, the doors flew open. A tall man with shiny shoes and a loud voice walked in. He wore a blue suit, gold rings on his fingers, and dark sunglasses even though they were inside. Behind him were two assistants, carrying his bags like he was a king. "Where is the airline manager?" he shouted. "Why was I not given my business class seat? Do you know who I am?" Everyone turned to look at him. Some people moved away, others whispered. But Ibrahim just sat still, flipping the page of his book. He didn't even look up. A young flight attendant named Zaraya rushed over. Her red lipstick was bright, and her uniform was neat. She smiled politely at the loud man. "I'm sorry, sir," she said. "There has been a change in the seating chart. We are trying to sort it out." "That's not my business," the man barked. "Fix it. I paid for luxury, and I will get it." Zaraya bowed slightly and nodded. Then she turned around and scanned the waiting lounge. Her eyes stopped when she saw Ibrahim. He was the only black man sitting in business class. He was quiet. He didn't look rich. She frowned. "Excuse me," she said, walking up to him. "May I see your boarding pass?" Ibrahim looked up slowly, his deep brown eyes calm. He smiled gently and handed it to her. Zaraya looked at the pass and blinked. "You're in business class?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. "Yes," he replied softly. Zaraya looked him up and down. No designer bag. No loud phone. No perfume cloud. She didn't like it. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, "but we may need to move some passengers around. Would you mind moving to economy?" Ibrahim raised one eyebrow. "Is there a reason I'm being asked?" he asked. His voice was still soft, but firm. "Well," Zaraya said, brushing her skirt, "you don't seem like, a frequent flyer in business class." People began to turn their heads. Ibrahim leaned forward. "Are you saying that because of the way I look?" he asked, still calm. No, Zaraya said quickly. "I'm just saying it would help if we could make space for a very important guest." "And I'm not important?" he asked. Zaraya paused. "I'm sorry, but..." Before she could finish, the loud man in the blue suit walked up behind her. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. "Move this guy." "I'm not going to economy." "I'm working on it, sir," Zaraya said, looking flustered. Ibrahim closed his book slowly. "I paid for business class," he said, "and I will sit in business class." The French CEO scoffed. "These people always think they deserve special treatment. I build hotels in their countries and they still act like kings." Zaraya laughed nervously, unsure whether to stop him or agree. Ibrahim said nothing, but the room was getting tense. A few other passengers, especially the ones who looked like they were from Africa, started to whisper. One of them, a young woman holding her daughter's hand, looked at Ibrahim closely. "Mama," the girl whispered. "He looks like..." "Shoo," the mother said quickly, pulling her daughter close. Zaraya didn't notice. She was still talking to the CEO and glancing nervously at Ibrahim. "I'll make sure this is sorted," she said to the CEO. "You'll have your seat." She turned back to Ibrahim. "Sir, please don't make this hard. We can offer you a free drink if you move." Ibrahim gave a slow, thoughtful smile. "I don't need a drink," he said. "I need respect." Zaraya blinked. She didn't know what to say. For the first time, she felt unsure. There was something about this man. The way he sat. The way he spoke. He didn't shout, but he had power in his voice. The CEO waved his hand. "If he doesn't move, I'm calling my lawyer. This is unacceptable. Ibrahim stood up slowly. He wasn't angry. He wasn't loud. He was simply strong. I will be boarding this plane, he said, holding his pass. And with that, he walked toward the gate. Zoraya looked confused. She didn't know if she should stop him. The CEO looked shocked, but no one dared to say another word. Ibrahim passed the gate and entered the plane. He took his seat in business class. Quietly, calmly, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. The wind of truth had started to blow, and no one was ready for the storm that was coming. The plane had taken off. It was quiet inside, except for the soft hum of the engine and the click of seatbelts. Ibrahim sat by the window, looking out at the clouds. He was calm, peaceful, but alert. His heart beat slowly, but his mind was sharp. He knew what had just happened at the airport wasn't just about a seat. It was about something deeper, how people judged others by their skin, clothes, and silence. Zoraya walked down the aisle with her service tray. She passed Ibrahim without a word. Her eyes still held the sting of his words. I need respect. She hadn't forgotten. She turned her attention instead to the loud CEO, who was now sitting across the aisle in a large seat with a glass of wine in his hand. He laughed with one of his assistants. Ah, this is more like it, he said. Business class is for businessmen, not for these. He lowered his voice. Bush presidents and farmers. Zoraya giggled nervously. You're right, sir. Some people don't even look like they should be here. Ibrahim heard, but he didn't turn his head. He simply closed his eyes. Just then, Zoraya leaned toward him. Would you like anything to drink, sir? She asked coldly. I'll have water, he said, without opening his eyes. She brought it without a word. Then something strange happened. She began checking boarding passes again, only for the black passengers. A woman with a baby looked up in confusion. You already checked mine at the gate, she said gently. It's just a routine check, Zoraya said, but she skipped the white passengers. A man wearing traditional African clothes raised his hand. Why are you only checking ours? It's company policy, she said, her voice sharper now. No, it's not, Ibrahim said suddenly. His voice cut through the cabin like a knife. Everyone turned. Zoraya froze. That's not airline policy, he said. It's personal bias. I am just doing my job, she said quickly. Then do it fairly, he replied. The CEO rolled his eyes. Oh, here we go again. Everyone wants to play the victim. The man got a seat. What else does he want? A parade? Ibrahim looked at him calmly. No, just dignity. The CEO laughed. Let me guess. You're some kind of activist? One of those internet warriors crying about injustice? No, Ibrahim replied softly. I'm someone who believes in justice. And I don't think that makes me weak. Zoraya clenched her jaw. Sir, if you have a complaint, please write to the airline. I don't need to write anything, he said. The truth always writes itself. The CEO leaned closer. Why don't you go back to your country and fix your own problems instead of sitting here causing drama? Ibrahim's eyes darkened. He leaned in too. That's exactly what I'm doing, he said. The CEO blinked. For a second, he looked confused. Zoraya, feeling embarrassed, stormed to the front of the plane. She didn't want to deal with Ibrahim anymore. She whispered something to the co-pilot through the curtain. Meanwhile, the other passengers began to talk among themselves. Who is he? Someone whispered. I don't know, another said. But he speaks with power. I think he's someone important. One woman nodded slowly. I've seen his face before. I just can't remember where. Zoraya came back a few minutes later, looking more nervous now, but she kept avoiding Ibrahim's gaze. The flight continued. Clouds rolled by. The sun shone bright through the windows, but the tension in the air was heavier than the plane itself. Then something happened. A young boy in economy class fell ill. He began coughing and shivering. His mother panicked. Help! Please! My son is not breathing right, she screamed. Zoraya rushed over, but she looked unsure. Does anyone have medical training? She asked loudly. No one answered. The CO looked up, annoyed. Can't she handle her own child quietly? But Ibrahim was already on his feet. He walked past the curtains and knelt by the boy. He asked a few calm questions, then took a small bottle from his carry-on. Is that medicine? The mother asked. Yes, he said, for shortness of breath. Just a few drops. He gave it to the boy. Within minutes, the boy stopped coughing and began to breathe better. The mother hugged her son and cried, Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ibrahim smiled gently. He'll be fine now, but make sure to take him to the hospital when you land. Zoraya watched from behind. For the first time, her eyes showed something other than pride. Maybe it was guilt or confusion. She whispered to herself, Who is he? Ibrahim returned to his seat. The plane grew quiet again. But this time, no one saw him the same way. Even the CEO stopped talking. His smile had vanished. And up in the clouds, the truth was flying faster than the plane. Something big was coming, and no one could stop it. The plane began to descend. The soft voice of the pilot filled the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be landing shortly in Ouagadougou. Please fasten your seatbelts. Everyone sat upright. Zoraya walked down the aisle once more, her shoes clicking softly on the floor. But this time she was quiet. She didn't check any boarding passes. She didn't smile. She just moved like a shadow. Ibrahim looked out of the window. The clouds had cleared. Below, the golden land of Burkina Faso stretched wide and beautiful. Red soil, green trees, the beating heart of Africa. Then he saw something strange. Hundreds of people. At the airport, soldiers in neat rows, flags waving, drums beating softly. Zoraya saw it too. What's going on? She whispered to herself. The French CEO looked out and chuckled. Looks like some local festival. Always so dramatic. But deep down, a tiny crack of worry opened in his heart. The plane touched down. The tires squealed on the runway. Inside the airport, security guards stood at attention. Cars with flashing lights waited on the tarmac. A red carpet had been rolled out. Passengers pressed their faces against the windows. Who's all this for? Someone asked. Zoraya was confused. The plane wasn't even at the gate yet, but men in military uniforms were already marching toward it. The co-pilot came out from the cockpit, looking tense. What's happening? She asked him. He whispered, I don't know. We just got a message. Prepare for a presidential reception. Her eyes widened. Presidential. She glanced around the plane. But there's no president here. Is there? Then, boom boom. 2 loud knocks on the airplane door. The door opened slowly. A tall officer in full uniform stepped in. He looked serious, powerful, and proud. He scanned the passengers. Then, without a word, he marched down the aisle, past confused faces. He stopped right in front of Ibrahim. Then, to everyone's shock, the officer snapped into a salute. Mr. President, the officer said. Welcome home. The plane went silent. Zoraya dropped her tray. The CEO dropped his wine glass. It shattered on the floor. Everyone stared at Ibrahim, who had just stood up slowly, calmly, like a king rising from his throne. Thank you, Captain, Ibrahim said. The officer turned and faced the rest of the plane. This is President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. You are standing in the presence of your head of state. A loud gasp rolled through the cabin. Someone whispered, That's why he looked familiar. That's him. That's really him. Zoraya's knees buckled. Her mouth fell open. No, it can't be. The CEO turned pale. This is some kind of joke, right? But it was no joke. More soldiers entered the plane. 2 of them walked straight to Zoraya and the CEO. You are both requested for questioning, one of them said firmly. What? Why? Zoraya stammered. I didn't do anything. You disrespected the president of a sovereign nation, the soldier replied. You mocked him, insulted his people, and showed clear discrimination. The CEO stood up in panic. I'm a French citizen. You can't touch me. But the soldier just said, In this country, We don't care about your title. You will answer for your actions. Handcuffs clicked into place. The passengers watched, stunned, as Zoraya and the CEO were led down the aisle in silence. Zoraya turned back once. Her eyes met Ibrahim's. He said nothing, but his calm gaze was stronger than any words. When they reached the front of the plane, the officer announced, "Clear the path for the president." The other passengers stood up quickly. They moved aside. Some bowed their heads. Some placed their hands on their chests. As Ibrahim walked toward the exit, one little girl whispered, "I want to be like him one day." A teenage boy nodded. "Me too." At the top of the steps, Ibrahim paused. He looked at the waiting crowd outside. Drums beating, people cheering, flags waving. Then he turned back to the plane and said, "Never judge a person by what they wear or how they look. You never know who they really are." With that, he stepped off the plane. Outside, thousands cheered his name. "Traore, Traore, Traore." He waved gently. His smile was warm, but his eyes were full of fire. Back inside the plane, the passengers were still frozen, still stunned. One man sat down and shook his head. "We sat beside a lion and thought he was just a cat." Another said, "We should have stood up for him. We should have said something." But it was too late. The truth had already landed. Outside the airport, it was like a festival. People held up signs. Some waved flags. Others threw flowers into the air. Children danced with joy. Mothers wept with pride. The land of Burkina Faso had waited patiently. And now, their president had returned. Ibrahim Traore stood tall. Soldiers flanked him on both sides. Government officials, dressed in fine white robes, came forward and bowed deeply. "Welcome home, Your Excellency," one said. "Your people missed you," said another. But Ibrahim only smiled. "I am just a servant," he said. "A servant of this land and her people." He walked slowly along the red carpet. Camera flashes lit up the air like lightning. The people cheered louder. "Traore, Traore, our lion is home." Back in the airport, Zoraya and the French CEO were sitting in a quiet room under security watch. Zoraya's face was pale. Her hands trembled. "I didn't know," she kept whispering. "I didn't know." The CEO sat stiffly, angry, not at himself but at the truth. He should have said something. He let us embarrass ourselves. A security officer turned sharply. "He gave you chances. Many. You were too proud to see." Zoraya dropped her head. "I was blind." The officer said nothing more. He just locked the door behind him. Word of what happened began to spread. First across the airport, then across the country, then the world. People couldn't believe it. The president traveled without guards. He sat like an ordinary man. He was insulted, mocked, treated like he was nothing. But he never raised his voice, never lost his calm. He let their actions speak for them. And now, so did the truth. A few days later, news stations buzzed with headlines. Burkina Faso president teaches the world a lesson in humility. Ibrahim Traore, a lion among men. French CEO and airline worker under investigation for racial discrimination. In France, the CEO's company was under pressure. People were boycotting his brand. Shareholders demanded answers. His photo was all over the internet, with words like arrogance, racism, and fall from grace in bold letters. Zoraya was suspended from the airline. Her career had come to a crashing stop. But more than that, her heart was broken. She sat on a bench outside her apartment, scrolling through the video of the president stepping off the plane. The video had gone viral. She read the comments. "This man is pure class. He didn't need to raise his voice. He let the truth speak." That flight attendant? Shameful. Just shameful. People like her need to see beyond the skin. Zoraya's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the screen. "I really am. But some things, once done, cannot be undone." Back in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim sat with his ministers in a quiet room. He wore simple clothes again. No crown, no medals, just a plain white tunic. But his presence filled the room. "Sir," one minister said. Why didn't you tell them who you were? You could have stopped the disrespect. Ibrahim looked at him and smiled. If I had told them, they would have stopped out of fear, not respect. But now the world sees their heart, their true heart. The ministers nodded. They understood. Another one asked, what do we do with them now? Ibrahim paused. Then he said, let the law speak, not my pride. And with that, the room fell silent again. 1 week later, Zoraya received a letter, stamped from Burkina Faso. It was from Ibrahim himself. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, there were only a few lines, but they felt heavy. To Zoraya, in every mistake lies a lesson, and in every lesson, a chance to grow. May you never judge again by skin or silence. Ibrahim Traore. She pressed the letter to her chest. Something in her heart broke, and something new started to heal. Somewhere in a small school in Ouagadougou, a teacher told her students, who can tell me what a real leader looks like? One little girl raised her hand. Someone who doesn't need to shout, she said. Someone who walks quietly but leaves big footsteps, said another. The teacher smiled. Very good. And who can name a leader like that? Together, the children shouted, Ibrahim Traore. And just like that, the story of that quiet flight, of the disrespect, the dignity, and the truth became more than just news. It became a legend. Moral of the story: never judge people by how they look. True power wears humility like a crown. Always treat others with respect. You never know who they really are. Thank you for watching. Please drop your thought in the comment section and tell us where you are watching from in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. See you in our next stories.